Good morning, afternoon. Good morning. Great to see you all. What an incredible morning, isn't it? Do you already feel more confident just from what you've heard this morning? So this is a good audience for me to talk to about our subject, which is elevating and building confidence through self-development, because the fact that you're here means that's something that you're interested in, right? And when we go out from here, as they were just talking about going into networking meetings, and as Jimmy talked about, being in front of people, you want to have that posture. You want to have some confidence. You want to be able to attract people to what you're doing. And for me, this is a journey that started actually about 35 years ago. Somebody convinced me to buy a ticket to go to an event. And I think I paid about $50, which just seemed like an incredible amount of money back then. And I bought this ticket, and I wasn't sure I really wanted to go. There was a guy who was going to be speaking. His name was Tony Robbins. And he was a very young guy. So he was just getting started. I didn't really know much about him. I think I'd read a little one of his books. And so I got a chance to go. But I don't remember a thing that Tony Robbins talked about. But the speaker who spoke before him and then introduced him was a man by the name of Jim Rohn. Have any of you heard of Jim Rohn? And I still remember to this day things that he talked about, and it set me on a journey that got me thinking about personal development, self-development, how to become a better version of myself. And I want to share some of those thoughts with you here today, because today is very important. You're here, but then what do you do when you go out from here? So I'm going to pick up on some themes that we've already talked about and heard about a little bit today: the confidence, gaining your identity, the authenticity, and that's going to be tied in a little bit as I go through here. Some of the people have been mentioning books that they recommend. You saw those on the screen. Take those, write those down, and go find them. I'm not going to give you a list because I thought there would be a lot of that, but I am going to integrate a number of things that I've learned from different people along the way to give you an example of the kind of things you want to do as you're working at developing yourself. How many of you have seen this? I'm sure. How many of you have seen this a couple thousand times? So we know this slide very well. And you know how after you see something well, sometimes you can kind of forget how significant it is. And a little while ago, I started looking at this and thinking about how sobering this slide is. And when you look at the statistics, that about 19 out of 20, that's the statistic, right? 5% is 1 out of 20. So 19 out of 20 people will end up in that black part of that sphere, that's still working dead or financially struggling. Do you know anybody that's in that category? Okay? So when you think about how this works, this is the default. That part of the circle is the default. Unless I do something different than what the rest of the world is doing, that's where I'll end up. I have a friend who's a counselor, and he'll tell the people he counsels that if you stay on the road that you're on, you'll eventually get to where that road leads. Okay? So as we start this, my question when I saw this that I've been pondering is, what do the 5% do? What's different about how they approach life, how they think about things? And there's a couple things. We know about the ongoing income thing. About 75% of them own some kind of business. They're great networkers. Most of the people who get into that category didn't do it by themselves, so they have a network of people. But you know, one of the things that really makes them stand out is that they're lifelong learners. They're readers. They're continuing to read and bring input into their life so that they can become better and become more valuable. A quote, a man by the name of Paul, some of you might have heard of, who said, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Here's what I like about that. It assumes that we've already been conformed to the pattern of this world. Wouldn't you agree? People are conformed. And the people we talk to, they're already conformed to the pattern of this world. And so there's a process that needs to take place. It's called the renewing of our mind. And I want to share some thoughts. I love this quote by Ed Mylett. And so as I said, I'm just going to integrate some of the people that I listen to and some of the people that I continue to go back to develop and learn. Ed Mylett's one that I do enjoy. But this quote really stood out to me, and I've been pondering it as well. The opposite of courage is not fear, it's conformity. And at first I thought, what does that mean? And I had to think about it. But that's pretty profound, isn't it? When I don't have the courage, I'm just going to try to fit in. I'm just going to try to look like everybody else. I'm going to do what most people do, which we already know that 19 out of 20 people aren't going to really make it financially. They're going to be financially dependent the rest of their life. So it may not be in my best interest to do that. I mentioned Jim Rohn. I'm going to bring him up a couple times throughout. He taught this, and I remember him saying this at the seminar: work hard at your job and you can make a living. Work hard on yourself and you can make a fortune. And I heard Don earlier say your 9 to 5 is to make a living, your 5 to 9 is to make your legacy. Okay, so this is what we're going to work on here today: is how do I become a better version of me? Would you rather have $1 million or be a millionaire? And you might wonder, what's the difference? And you can think about that a little bit. Maybe ask it this way: would you rather earn $1 million or have $1 million given to you in the lottery? What do we know happens to a lot of people who win the lottery? It's not so good. I mean, it's kind of exciting, and everybody thinks, oh, that won't happen to me. But the reality is, most of the times, if we're not mentally prepared, if we don't have the right identity, if we don't understand who we are, it's not going to last long. Jim Rohn said, if somebody gives you $1 million, you better quick become a millionaire if you want to keep it. Okay, so it's a different way of thinking. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. It takes time to bring the value, but we get paid for the value, not the time. A definition of prosperity that I love is that prosperity is leaving every person and every situation better than we found it. When we start thinking about, this is who I am, my job is to become more valuable in the world, more valuable in the marketplaces. It's obviously everybody's valuable, but this is, how do I produce more value? How do I be fruitful and multiply? You are your most valuable asset. The best investment that you could ever put money into is yourself. And you think about this, we talked about inflation earlier today. How many of you have been a little concerned about the economy? Or you know anybody's a little concerned about the economy? People are thinking about this. And so when you start looking at inflation, maybe inflation's growing at 3 or 4 or 5%, or maybe higher. What if you were increasing the value by 7 or 8 or 9% every year? See, if we want to keep up with inflation, it's not just getting more at our job, it's becoming more valuable. You are your most valuable asset. So can you become twice as valuable? 10 times as valuable? By the way, you know 10X, Grant Cardone, there's another one to look up. But can you become 10 times as valuable? Or 100 times as valuable? Does somebody in our business make 10 times more than you? Does somebody in the business make 100 times more than you? So it's there, it's possible, but how do I become more valuable so I can enjoy that as well? Another one of my favorites is Zig Ziglar. He says, you are who you are, and you're where you are because of what's gone into your mind. You can change where you are, and you can change what you are by changing what goes in your mind. So that is a pattern for life. To think where I'm going, it has to do with what I allow into my mind. Success then is something you attract by the person you become. I heard somebody mention authenticity. It's that authenticity. When you become the person who has the confidence and who has the poise and the posture, people will be attracted to you. And this business is much more fun when people are attracted to you versus you pursuing them. So success is not something that's pursued, it's something that's attracted. So I want to give a couple quick points, and I'm speaking quickly because I want to cover a lot of information, but this is about building a rock-solid confidence through self-development. And the first point I want to make is be intentional. Do it on purpose. If you don't program your brain, someone else will.
Oh, wow.
It's happening right now. The moment you leave here, you think about how many advertisements we see every day. We're being programmed constantly. Everyone is brainwashed. The question is, who's doing the washing? So, with that in mind, be intentional. You are perfectly programmed to get the results you're currently getting. So if you don't like the results, we need to change the programming. And so that's part of what this weekend is, but it can't just be one weekend a year. It has to be an ongoing thing. So be consistent. Another book I'll throw out here, The Compounding Effect. By Darren Hardy, talks about doing little things daily. It's not the big thing, it's the little things daily that have a compounding effect. Just like compound interest, after a while, those things start to have an exponential curve. And so being intentional and being consistent are the first thing I want to encourage you to think about. Second thing, number 2, read like your life depends on it. 88% of self-made millionaires read every day for 30 minutes or more, and they read 2 or more books per month. And you start looking at billionaires, there's a lot of billionaires who are reading a book every week, or there's some people who can read a book every day. So you think about that, the people who have produced a lot of value, and it's not all about the money, but it's becoming somebody who can produce a lot of value in the world. Always have a book with you. I think this is a great tip. Everywhere I go, I have a book. If I'm going to meet somebody, have you ever had somebody not show up? So I like to be prepared. So I always have something that I'm going to read. In fact, what's interesting, you're sitting at a coffee shop reading a book about whatever, Think and Grow Rich or whatever it is, and somebody across the aisle says, hey, what are you reading? It's a great opening. It's a great way to start a conversation. And when your person shows up, they see you there with this book, and it's a great way. Because once they start engaging and talking about that, you know, this might be the kind of person I want to work with. So always have a book with you. Make a priority list. Start gathering the ideas of what do you want to read. And there's a good app called Goodreads, where you can, every time I hear of a good book, I just go into Goodreads and I just add it in there. It's my want-to-read book. It's a list of things I want to read, things I have read. Yeah, it's kind of social media, so you can see what other people are reading and learn from them. But I will say this, I know reading sometimes is a little bit of a struggle. So if reading is a struggle, and I'm not a fast reader, I'm actually kind of a slow reader, but start, you think 30 minutes a day? Okay, that's fine. I just say 5 pages. So I'm going to read 5 pages a day, or 10. You read 10 pages a day, you can read a 300-page book every month, right? So just start small and go through that, and then as you do, you'll find that you get better and better at it. So read. Number 3 is listen. And we talked a little bit about that. I heard Jimmy mention about the podcast, the audios, YouTube, audiobooks. And when do you do that? The great thing about listening, we have so many things available to us now. We can do it while we're driving, we can do it while we're cooking, while we're working out, while we're doing chores, while we're mowing the yard. Whatever we're doing, we can add that into our lifestyle. I like this idea too, to stack your habits. That's from a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, another good book to read. But stack your habits, meaning if I have a habit of getting up every morning and going for a walk, pop on the headphones and listen to something while I'm walking. So that way those habits support each other, and it becomes the norm for what you do. Check out Hoopla. Hoopla is an app that links you to your local library that you can download for free, books to listen to at any time. Just sign them out like you're signing them out of your library. My daughter's a librarian, so she put me onto that, and it's a great tool. So constantly have something that you're listening to. Last thing in this is Market America Goldmine every day. There is so much that we have in our business. One of the things I love about our business is that it really is about personal growth with the great compensation plan. Market America has a gold mine at the beginning, at the bottom of each page, or at the bottom of your back office. And scroll to the bottom because all the gold's right down there. You have JR's lessons and resources. If you haven't looked at that lately, go in there. There's just talk after talk after talk. A lot of them are short excerpts, and you can get them and just listen to a couple a day. And then we also have the replays down there. So take advantage of that. It's all there for your benefit. Number 4 is capture. And that is don't trust your mind. What did somebody say this morning? That the weakest ink is better than the longest memory, because you can always go back to it, it's there. So, journal. How many of you keep a journal? I was always a little awkward about keeping a journal because I felt like I had to write something profound. And then I just started writing down things that other people said. And I write down quotes, I read a book, and I write down an idea, and I just keep including it. And you know, even if I never go back and read it, when I write it down, it helps me to remember it. I also keep a note on my phone for quotes and thoughts. So I hear a quote or a thought in my mouth somewhere, I just add it to that note. And I have a whole list of them. And once in a while, I just read through those, and that's always very encouraging. But gather up that information so that it becomes part of you. Use a 3x5 card. Carry your idea of the day. And then look for an opportunity to share it. Number 5 is pass it on. Teaching, and you probably found this to be true, is one of the best ways to learn, isn't it? So if I can share this with somebody else, I have a 3x5 card, then I either carry a Bible verse or a quote or something I'm reading, and I look for somebody during the day to share that with. Carry that with you. It's something you can keep referring to, and when you share it with people, you find out the people who respond, and they can be good partners. Find people who are going the direction you want to go. Social media posts, as I find good gold, I share that on social media, and the people who respond, again, they're people I may want to spend more time with. So 6 is take action. Knowledge is power, but only if applied. Tony Robbins said that personal power is the ability to take action. Do it now. I'll end with a final quote from my favorite teacher, who said, often after he would teach, he would say, now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Knowing is good, but the blessing comes with the doing. Thank you.
Nice job, Timmy. Thank you, sir. Very good. Thank you, Tim. You know, I would add to you that Headway is a great app. I have it on my phone. They give you like the cliff notes of different books. You can pick categories, health and wellness, relationships, things like that. Those are quick 10-minute listens if you only have a short drive or whatever the case may be, a small amount of time. I also on my desk for decades, I've had a perpetual calendar. You can find one online. Every day it's a quote. You just flip it to the next day. And oddly enough, it's amazing to me how often whatever that quote is, and I've been reading them literally for 2 decades, that it applies to that day. Something happens that day that applies to the quote on there, like, you know, stupid people will be in the left lane, right? Well, good to know. That could be on there every day. Hey, our next speaker is going to come out here and talk to you about some of the digital tools that are available, the enhancements that we have. I know some of us old timers sound like, you know, walking uphill both ways to school in the snow, but man, back in the day, right, it was you have so much more available to your fingertips. I was talking with Tom backstage. He said to me about, you know, how do you learn so much about the products, man? There is more information on the back office that you little finger could ever click on. Start with the frequently asked questions and the products that you use and want to represent the most, and just engross yourself in those. Our next speaker has done that with everything that's available. There's very little that happens at this regional that hasn't had her input on it. She's kind of, along with Jack Beck, Don Lisa Martin's right-hand man. She's committed to fitness, but perhaps her greatest claim, she will tell you, is the mom of 3 and the grandmom of 3. Please welcome to the stage, Roseanne Conway. Roseanne!